Okay, so for putting the keyboard back together, this is the way that seems to be working so far. So as you can see, I got these seven rods out the front here. And these are, I think I showed these before, these are what all the keys are not really attached to, but those rods go through this long slit in the key right here. So what I've been doing is, grab a number 2 here. Should put a little bit of oil on it probably. You can see these are a bit rusty up at the top. I'm not going to worry about that. They're just like a little bit of surface rust. I don't want to risk trying to pull the keycaps off to clean that off. So I'm just going to put some oil on it, and that should prevent it from rusting any further. It's not enough rust to that it's like swelled up any that it's going to get stuck. So I prefer to just leave well enough alone. So I put some oil on that, and I'm going to put the spring on that peg. And then comes the somewhat tricky part. So it's especially tricky to show here. It's even trickier when my tripod doesn't work. So yeah, you're probably not going to be able to see exactly what I'm doing, but basically there's a little hole. There's a little hole right there. Right there's a little hole, and you want to get the peg with the spring on it down that hole. Now, I do want to mention that you see these rods across the bottom, all the way down there in the bottom? Those are the keyboard locks, so that when the machine is going through a cycle, you can't push or release the key. Right now those are locked because they're disconnected from the rest of the mechanism, and they spring into the locked position. So you can see, if I push on the front of the rod, you can see it move a little bit there. So what I'm going to do, my camera will at least partially cooperate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get the key in there. Now it's kind of hard to get in the hole because the spring is longer than the peg, and the edge of the spring likes to snag on the hole and not let you get the, see it got stuck there. It likes to snag on the hole, and then you can't get the key in because the part of the spring has gone down the hole. Now see it went down the hole? I'm going to push the front of the lock in, and then see, now it springs back, now the key's locked into place. Then I'm going to push the center rod forward. There we go. See, now it came through the key. So now it's going to hold that key in place while I work across to put the others in. And once I have all the keys in, then I'll put the next plate like this on. That will hold them in place, and then I can release the locks so that I can work on the next row. So it's probably going to take quite a bit of time. It's kind of a difficult process to get the pin lined up in the hole down there because the spring gets in the way. But it seems to be working so far, and it's definitely a lot easier than the Victor keyboard, because in the Victor keyboard you had to kind of line a bunch of things up simultaneously, whereas in this one you can pretty much do each key individually and not have to worry about anything else while you're working on each key. So I'm going to do that and see where we go from there. I haven't bolted the keyboard back in yet because I'm not sure if I'm done with the rest of this yet. I think I probably am, but I'm going to put this back together and see where we go next. So I've got all the keys installed and this plate screwed on. I should be able to go through and release each one, and then I also have to release that because this is the latch that holds the key down. So when you push the key down, it latches with this rocker, and then when the machine goes through a cycle, it locks down with the bottom one. So you push the bottom lock in, release the rocker. That one might be a little bit stuck. Yeah. So I'm going to take so there we go. It takes a little bit for some of them to loosen up because I might have gotten some extra paint, here and there, like on the inside of the panels there. So That's why some of them are a bit sticky, but they'll loosen up. That one's a bit sticky too. Just work it back and forth a little bit. Well, it'll loosen up after a while. There we go. There we go. I think you got to get the lock. See, I push too hard on the lock on the bottom, that locks in. See, there we go. So I think that should be okay once the machine is back together, because you have to get it exactly right between the position of the lock on the bottom. That one's a bit stiff too. That one loosened up real nice. So that one I didn't push hard enough on the lock. Okay, so all the twos are back in. So I'll do that with the rest of the keyboard. And then I might show you how the this mechanism works, which is the leading zero suppression on the pointer. It's kind of cool how it's a pretty simple mechanism, and what it does is it blocks leading zeros, so that if you have like 1, you don't get like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. You just get 1 without the leading zeros in front of it. So maybe I'll show you how that works after I get this keyboard back together. Okay, so the register here is pretty simple. Normally it sits like this, of course, and then that's back. So when this piece is back, this moves up and down. So that's up, and that locks these wheels so they can't turn. When it wants to add, it pushes this in, this pops down, and now the wheels are free. When I just do a normal addition, it will turn it forward, which is this way. When it hits 9, see, it pops that up. And then what that does is, these things down here are springs, see? So normally they're held out in the spring position. But when this pops down, then it allows this to pop back on the spring and drive the next column one position forward. And if you pop the register back up, pop it back down again, then these reset. You can see they're all in line now. When it wants to do a total, it just turns this backwards until it stops. See, it can't go past that. And then when it stops there, you can see then it has 0 in the digit. So that's pretty simple. As far as putting this back in, it's going to put the machine kind of halfway through a cycle. That way these are out, and then they don't get stuck on these things. So with those out, I should be able to just set this right down like that. And then I have to get this bar here in position. If I remember correctly, this was on the outside, I think. Like that. Let's see what I'm talking about. So this bar here, that's this bolt. I thought that how should I put this in correctly? Because I thought that, see, this nut has or the screw rather has a shoulder on it. I thought that the shoulder on this side, but it actually appears that it goes on the other side. So make sure you get that in the right way, otherwise it'll tighten up and, oh yeah, it definitely goes on that way. Okay. I'll just put that in. And then of course, you have to put the 4 screws around the register, but theoretically, now this should, I'll just hold this down in case it wants to jump up, should be able to drive down, and you can see it driving it there. Yeah. Okay, I think that should work. Let me just pop 2 of these screws in and we'll see if it'll total out. The machine really isn't super complicated. It's kind of nice to work on. There's also plenty of space inside, unlike the other machines where everything's jam-packed right together. This one's pretty open. It's not too bad. So now that's screwed in. Now we have to do one empty add, so I'll just hold these down. And now we should be able to total. And it clears it right out. So now, what should happen is if I hold down all but one, oops. Should be adding a lot more than that. Why? Oh, I didn't put my spring back on, maybe. No, if that's affecting this. See if that makes a difference. There we go. So let's total this out again, since I messed up. Okay, so if I hold down all but the last one, I should add 9 in, and it does. And then if I keep doing that, it should carry over, and it does. Didn't that time. Oh, I think I know why. Yeah, okay, it's working. It's coming up all zeros because I'm adding all 9s, and then the carry from this one's carrying over, so that does appear to be working. I think these have to come up just a little bit in order for the carry to work. So let's clear this out again. There, we've cleared out. Now let them come up. That's probably too much. We only got one again. Why? It's still on. So let's see. All of these spring-loaded things look to be in the right position. So if I hold all of these down, okay, that added 9. That's right. Now, if I add 9 again, that didn't do anything. So if I added 9 again, now we've got 18. That's right. Now I think in order to reset those, because if you can see here, can't see anything. Still can't see. This one is back further than the ones on either side of it. Not sure if you can really see that or not. I think that the bars have to go forward a little bit in order to reset that. So I'm gonna let them come up just a little bit. And I'll drive 9 on that one. It might not have been enough. Yeah, it didn't reset that carry, so just a little bit more. Okay, now I think it might be working. So after letting it come just a little bit more than I was thinking, we'll clear this out again. We've got 9, 18. Oops, I didn't come too far that time. I added all 1s in. The carry still didn't carry over. So I think that is working. Now if I add all 9s to this, it should be the same thing, but a 6 here. So if I do all 9s, yeah. And that's because the carry is carrying all the way over off the end of the machine. So that means all the carriers are working. Okay, so I think the register is back in working order. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the leading zero suppression. So get a good view on the printer here. So these things right here are the hammers, and they are a long shaft that goes all the way down to down here. They poke out. Let me lift up this lock, see if I can move them. No, they're locked in. So how this works is, get my pointer here. See this? Yeah, this rod right here goes down to a rod that goes underneath all of these, and is also attached on this side. So you can see it down there. It's kind of hard to see. It's right in there, that thing with the slits on it. That has little rockers in it, and you'll see when I pull the handle. See down there the little rockers? Let me get this in the stop position. See these things right here, and those are attached to these things. So when these lift up, as they're lifted up right now, because all of the print heads lifted up. So when these lift up, they pull these down, and as you can see, all of these are down except this last one on the end here. This one's up a little bit higher. That's because this one's for the symbols like total, subtotal, and so on. And you can see that rocker didn't lift, so that held down its lever, which kept this locked. Yeah, and this is. So if I have this released, and these are going to release, then it should print. And it does. You can see it printed there. And then it returns. Now, if I hold some of those down, say I hold down these ones, you'll see that those rockers don't unlock. I have to hold this up too. And you can see only the bars that lift up have rockers that release. Now, what happens if you have, like, say 90000? Then these ones won't lift up and they won't release, so you'd think that it wouldn't print. But all the way down on the bottom, right down in here, you guys see how they're bent over? So if I have, say, a 9 in this column, this one's going to release, and when it releases, you can see it pulls all the ones behind it with it. So if I have 9 and then all zeros, this 9 is going to pull forward and release the printer and all the zeros, and that way I get my 9 and all the zeros printed. Let me see. Whoops. See if I can demonstrate that without getting my fingers pinched. What I want to do is hold down. If I can hold down like this. So theoretically it should print on this one that's coming up and the two next to it. And it didn't because I didn't release that. Let me do something to hold that release. That might work. I'll try this again. Yeah, and you can see all those printers released. These ones kind of miss because the bars naturally go up just a little bit. So I can, it's a bit better. Yeah, there you go. So it's going to hit some number, probably 8 in this column, and then the 2 zeros in those columns. So yeah, it's pretty cool, but also pretty simple little mechanism there. So I think that this is just about ready for me to finish reassembling the keyboard and put that back in. And then after I do that, I'll have to clean up this mess of a paper feed. But we're getting close now. Clear it out again here. Seems to be working nice. Okay, now the keyboard's mostly together. I'm going to take this front plate back off, and that is so that I can put those rods in that hold the, do you remember those, the slide, well, I guess they're rods too, those long flat rods that went up the middle, those are held in place in the front to prevent it from sliding out by little pins that go in here. So I'm going to take this back off to put those pins in, because I couldn't put the pins in before because then you can't slide the rods in with the pins there. And when I put this back on, I'm going to use the greenest screws that I have. I mean, I could paint the screws, but since some of them still have some green paint left on, those are the ones I'm going to put in these screw holes in the front, because I think those are visible with the case on. So that comes off, and then these look pretty well in place. I'm going to go up a little bit. And then we need our pins. They just go in here. Let's see, where do they go? Probably goes there. Just short one, maybe the short one goes over here. No, it's still too long. The real short one, that must be this one. There we go. And all these pins do is just prevent the rods there from sliding out. It's being difficult. So I think those are good enough like that. I'm not sure why there's extra screw holes here. I don't think all these screw holes are used. Well, obviously those ones can't be. So I'm not quite sure why those are there. Additionally, we also have to put back on this little felt thing, which probably I should clean up first. But that goes on the bottom of this plate like that. And this bar goes on the back to hold it in place. So let me see if I can wash this up or something. Put that back on. But in the meantime, I should be able to tighten down this back row now, since all the rods are in place. And also this little, I don't know if you can see this little peg here, I cleaned the paint off that because that's where the clearing actuator goes. The little thing that pivots on there, and that drives the clearing bars to the back of the keyboard. Get these tightened up. There's also some screws in the middle here that again I've chosen some ones that are still green for those. So those might be visible when I put the case back on. Not that they'd be easy to see back there behind all the nines, but still. So those I think are all tightened up. And I should be able to release the nines, so the clearing mechanism release. So if I pop these up, kind of stiff it seems. That one wants to go. There we go, that one went. Okay, so I release the clearing mechanism. Well, that's why it's so stiff. It's setting on that. Okay. If I push this in, it's a little bit stiff, but that might be because of the way it's sitting. It's sitting on the clearing bars, so That could be why these are somewhat stiff. You can see on the back here. So these are the clearing bars. So this is attached to that rod that runs all the way down. Runs all the way down in between the keys that pivots back and forth. This is on the end of that, so when you push this over, that essentially releases the keys for that row. So if I could demonstrate that, which maybe I can. See, I'll get a key pushed down here. So I've got 6 pushed down. So I'm going to release the bottom lock. Now if I release that, it pops back up. So that's how that works. And then this piece here releases all of them at once. And that's how it clears the keyword at the end of the cycle. You see that just pushes them all over. And that actuates by this little thing, which I think goes on this way. Yes, it does. So that goes in that groove there, and then this goes on here, and then every time you push that down, it should actuate those. There we go. It's kind of hard to see because of the way I'm holding this. Let me see if I can get a better. So you see, every time I push down on that thing, it's going to clear the keyboard. So let me put the nut back on there, and then we can get my felt cleaned up, and we'll see if we can put the front piece back on, and the keyboard should be done. Okay, pro tip: don't take the keyboard apart. You can see that. See how the keys poke out the bottom there a little bit? So in the home position, that's how high they are. And you can see that they just barely locate in these holes here. And when I was putting it together, I had assumed that by bolting each plate on as I went, that would keep those long bars in place and prevent the keys from popping out of those holes. But apparently that was not the case. As I was tightening down this front bar, I realized that some of the bars wouldn't go all the way down, and it turns out that they had lifted up just enough for the keys to pop out of these holes. So about half the keys in the keyboard had actually popped out of there and were just loose, and so you couldn't push the keys down because they were hitting against this bottom plate, and also the bars wouldn't go down into place because the keys wouldn't go down enough to let them go into place. So basically what I did was I laid it on the side like this, and then I went row by row working the keys in and then tightening down the front plate to push the bars down a little bit, just to keep the keys that I got located in place. And then when I got to the top, because this back bar also holds there was long bars, and you can see the slots there where they go in. When I got to this top part, what I did was I went row by row and then locked down all the keys that would lock, and then as soon as I got one more key to lock down, then I would lock that in right away. So it seems like all the keys are in now. You see they all are poking out the bottom there. Hopefully they'll stay in. It doesn't seem like they can go up any further, so hopefully they'll stay in place there. So yeah, don't take apart the keyboard. It's not as easy to put back together as I thought it would be. I still don't understand why they can't make the keyboards nice like on the Monroe keyboard. I mean, yeah, on that one you have to pull the keycaps off to get it apart, but at least the keys lock individually, so there's like a little, it's kind of like a U-shaped type thing that goes inside the key stem on each key to lock it in place. So you don't have to fight with anything else while doing each individual key stem, but whatever. Hopefully this is back together now. I still have to put the nut on the back of the clearing thing and put it back in, and then I've got to clean up the outside case, which is still really dirty. Okay, so I think hopefully we can give this a test now. Of course I got oil all over the keycaps and the board again while fighting with it, so I'll have to clean that up. But let's just see what happens. Alright, added it in. Okay, so now I have to do an empty add, and then hold down the twirl button. Okay, So let's see, let's try multiplication with 25 times 25. Actually, I don't know if we can do that because I'm not sure what the repeat thing does. I wonder if it just holds that down. If I hold this down, see if it'll clear it. 1, 2, 3. So now we need to clear out. I guess we can't really do. There's no clear button. That's unfortunate. Now I've got 2 keys stuck down. Huh. We want to get rid of this column. There we go. Then we need to do 2 in this column, so we'll hold this. Do this again. Alright, that's right, 25 times 25 is 625. So that seems to be working. The carry seems to be working. Cool. So now, of course, okay, that makes sense how that works. So, looking at this thing back here, so I'll enter a number and watch. You'll see that arm swing is down. See it swinging down back there? And once it comes back up, it hits that and pushes it over to clear it. Oh, it's kind of hard to see that angle. You know, I got a good angle on it for the camera. Anyway, when I wanted to repeat, I just hold this piece down, so that way when this bar swings back up, it misses this and doesn't clear. So that's pretty simple. And if you remember, when I took the case off in the beginning, the repeat key came off with the top case. So that must be all the repeat key does, is it's just a rod that goes down to push that out of the way. So that's cool, that's pretty simple. So we need to do an empty add, and then we can total. Cool. Okay, so assuming the keyboard stays together, should work. Sounds nice, it's a nice clicky sound. Alright, so I think I need to try and clean off the oil that I made a mess out of this now. And then we can clean up the outer case and hopefully put that back on. One thing, I'm not sure how the crank is supposed to come off. I'd rather you're supposed to be able to pull it out, but that doesn't seem to be the case on this machine, so not quite sure what the deal is with that. There's a little oil hole here. It was probably full of dust, but so I'll probably have to put some oil in there before we're done. If I can hopefully get some of the dirt out of there first, though. I don't want to flush all the dirt down into the bushing. I do kind of like that a lot of the bushings have oil holes on them. So you can see there's one here, here, and not sure if you can see down on that there's one. See there's one right there and one right there, and then the same thing on the other side. See like one there and different places. So that's nice. So it seems to be working so far. We could try a subtotal. Subtotal should raise the total but leave it in the register. And it does. Good. Okay. I think I'm going to be satisfied assuming the keyboard continues to work. Still not quite confident that those are going to stay in place, but hopefully they will. I can't see anything that looks like it's missing or bent or wrong or anything. So they should stay in place. It just seems kind of flimsy to me, but whatever. I guess worked for 100 years, so hopefully it'll keep working. So I just wanted to note that this base piece here, originally I just assumed that this was cast aluminum, simply because that's usually what these big castings are. But I think this is actually cast iron. I don't think it's cast steel because they wouldn't have to, spend the extra money for cast steel for something like this. But it's probably cast iron. You can see it's kind of like a little bit rusty here and there. Not like I want to say it's like really rust, but kind of darkened. And that's why this machine is so heavy, because this is a big casting. It goes all the way from the back all the way up to the front, and you can see it's pretty thick metal. So that's what makes this machine so heavy, and I'm really surprised that it is cast iron. The top piece, though, is aluminum. You see some of it poking through here, and it's definitely a lot lighter. It's kind of interesting, this piece here, I think, well, if you look at it, you can see that it's just like a plate that goes in there. So I'm wondering if Burroughs' original intention was to put a glass piece there, like they had in their other machines with the glass sides. I wonder if they were going to put a piece of glass in there so you could see and see the mechanism, but decided to just put the metal plate in instead. That's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I'm kind of thinking that maybe that's what happened, because really there's no reason why this would have to be a separate plate. I don't think this would affect it, because this just goes into a slot. But you know what, maybe that is why. I'm not sure. Maybe that is why, because maybe you'd have to... No, because if you push this all the way down, if you push this key all the way down, then without the keycap on, it should slide back through that slot. So, I'm not sure why they had it like that. You see our nice glass window here. I've cleaned up part of this. You can see I started cleaning up the bottom part, but haven't got to the sides yet. This glass is surprisingly thick. Not sure if I can show this on camera. You can see there just how thick that glass is. I think that piece of glass is thicker than my whole phone. That's kind of interesting. It's a good thing that the glass is not broken. I mean, it'd probably take a lot to break this glass, but if it was, I'm not sure where I'd even find a piece of plexiglass that thick to replace it. So, yeah, this machine is definitely way overbuilt, but that's what I like about these old machines. And usually the older you go, the more overbuilt they are. This one's 1916, so this is the first time I've ever seen a cast iron base plate like this. The Martians used cast bottoms and cast sides, but those were all cast aluminum, and they were still pretty heavy, but they'd be a lot more heavy if they were all cast iron like this is. So, just a little look at the materials used to make this machine. And assuming this machine would have been incredibly expensive to manufacture, even though it's not, that fancy of a machine, it's not automatic or anything. But I mean, if you think about it, just in the keyboard alone, each number has its own separate part for key stem, so that's 9 different parts right there, plus the rockers that lock them, so that's 10, then the locks that go across the bottom, that's 11, and then the rod that holds the keys in place, that's 12, plus then 13, 14, 15, and if you count the base plate, that's 16, the sides are 17, the front is different from the back, so that's 18 and 19, so that's 19 different parts just to make the keyboard. And you'd have to have 19 different stamps, 19 different stamps or cast or molds, 19 different stamps or molds just to make the keyboard parts. And there's a whole bunch of different parts in the register, and really a lot of different parts in the printing mechanism back here. So, I mean, just the cost and tooling would be extraordinarily high, I think. So I'm going to get back on cleaning this, and then hopefully I can figure out some way to disable this. I'll probably just see if I can wedge something under this little lip here so that it doesn't lock. Since I don't have the key, and in case I need to get this open again to oil it or whatever, I definitely want that. I definitely don't want this to be an issue. But I think it's coming together, assuming the keyboard stays together, which I think it will, but I'm still bothered by the flimsiness of that.